Coming up in this video, bringing the Rolling Stones to Thailand and the fascinating story that led to it. Discovering Elvis's Graceland home here in Udon Thani, or so I thought. And paradise for musicians and wannabe musicians like me. Right in the centre of town, just a few minutes up the road from Landmark, is this Aladdin's Cave for musicians. They've got a massive selection of amps, guitars, electric and acoustic, and electronic drum kits. And the guitars are not all those cheap Chinese copies. You can get those here, but they've also got the Mexican and Japanese originals. It's not just about getting pleasure from playing these instruments. For me, seeing them on the wall like this, they're just like works of art. They're beautiful. As this video has got some musical references, I was hoping to be able to take you to a rehearsal studio close to where we live. There's a place where you can go and rent a room for 200 baht for 1 hour, and that includes a full PA system and a drum kit. And it's soundproof, you can just sit in there, you can play along, you can attach your phone to their PA system and play along to any music that you want. Or you can take your band in there, plug in the guitars, the amps and everything, and just go crazy for a while. I went round there, I was hoping to do a video of that, show you that place, but the kits are not there at the moment. They're being hired out for some music projects at some of the schools locally, and so I couldn't do that. So I thought I'd bring you around here and show you this shop. I'll put a link down in the description so you can see where the place is. Anyone who's interested in buying a musical instrument or just going to browse this place, like I say, it's absolutely beautiful. And that's enough of that. If anyone's interested in going to take a look at this place, I'll put a link down in the description to help you find it. Riding along this road is a regular occurrence for Pook and me. When we're heading from our house up towards Home Pro, this is the road we take. And the first time I did it, this place just caught my attention. Bang, made me turn instantly and have a look at it, stop. It's just an amazing house, beautiful. Obviously a lot of money's gone into it. And the first thing that sprang to mind was Graceland's, Elvis's house. You take a look at this, and then you take a look at Elvis's house beside it. And see what the similarities are. All right, there's a few differences, but the actual build of the house, I wouldn't mind betting that whoever had this house built was an Elvis fan. But the strange thing is, it's always deserted, it's empty. It looks empty anyway. I've heard that it belongs to a guy who owns a successful curtain company. I've also heard it belongs to a doctor, but I'm not too sure. The place always looks deserted to us. I'll put a link down in the description box where this place is, if anyone fancies putting an offer in on it. And if anyone knows anything about it, please let us know in the comments, I'd love to know. These two pictures mark an historical event in musical history in the UK. The coming together, the first photographs ever taken of the Rolling Stones when they formed as a band. So, how did Pook and I acquire these valuable pieces of art? I'm going to tell you the full story about the man who took those photographs, who became a friend of ours, and who gave us those 2 photographs. That story involves, just to name a few, Winston Churchill, Aristotle Onassis, the Beatles. It involves the infiltration of Rupert Murdoch's London home, Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor, and of course the Rolling Stones. But before I tell you about the guy who took those photographs, I'm going to show you this place here in Udon Thani where we had them framed and the cost of getting them framed. When we were first given the pictures, we had them framed back in the UK and hung them in our house back there. The cost of having those 2 frames made back there was almost £100 for the 2. Of course, I didn't want to get rid of those pictures, and bringing them here to Thailand, there's no way I could have left them framed. So we took the photographs out of the frames, rolled them up and put them in a cardboard tube, and the frames, we just had to throw them away. So let me show you where Pook and I took these pictures to get them framed here in Udon Thani, and then afterwards I'll tell you the full, intriguing story of the man who took those photographs. Just up there on the left is the McDonald's at UD Town. So coming away from there, down towards this first set of traffic lights you'll get to on the left-hand side, this is the photo framing shop. Although they do everything to do with photographic work, prints, the full works. And they've got a photographic studio here too. This is the pinning machine for fixing the different sections of the frame together, and the saw bench for cutting the different angles that they need.
We come pick it up Friday.
Be ready on Friday?
Yes. So they're gonna take 3-4 days.
Okay.
And Friday they got even grand opening here.
Grand opening?
Yes. So you can come here to register.
Yeah.
And they take you photo because here they do like a studio too.
Yeah.
You can come here with family or girlfriend, boyfriend, husband and wife or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They take you picture. They make you frame and give to you free.
Oh, cool.
For grand opening.
Best get a clean shirt on. Let's go. They did a great job. Frames were really good quality. The beveled edge border card they put inside was absolutely perfect the way they'd done that. Really pleased with the result. When we went to pick the pictures up, as Pook said earlier, they were having an official opening even though the shop had already been opened, and they were offering to do a free photograph for you, print it and frame it. So of course we went for it. So finally the cost. In the UK it cost me just under £100. Here it cost me 2,100 baht, that's about £49. I'll put a link to this company in the description box. Okay, so how did Pook and I acquire these two beautiful pieces of art? These two photographs that Philip Townsend took back in 1961. And how did Philip actually get involved with the Rolling Stones? Philip Townsend was born in 1940. His upbringing was a little bit checkered, to say the least. Well-to-do family, but his mother had a gambling habit, and instead of paying his school fees, she would end up going gambling and losing the money. And so when the money ran out and the school fees weren't being paid, they'd have to move on and disappear to another town, get into another school. In total, Philip went to 25 schools. Through friends of the family, he got an apprenticeship as a photographer and ended up working for the Daily Express newspaper. Now, during his career, he became known as Mr. 60s. He caught so many of the images that became iconic of that period of time. That period that became known as the swinging 60s. And you'll see as we go through here some of the photographs that he took of some of the famous faces of those days. When the Beatles met the Maharishi in the meditation centre in Holland Park, London, Philip Townsend was the only photographer allowed to attend. He got to work with the English model Twiggy, or as Dave Bowie used to call her, Twig the Wonder Kid. He was called in by Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor's publicists to take this picture. They'd actually split up and the rumours were getting out there. The people around them didn't want that news to get out to the public, really. So they staged this photo shoot in a club just to put out there to the public that Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor were still an item. It wasn't the case though. In 1961, Philip was working in the south of France for the Express newspaper, and he was just wandering around taking pictures of whoever he found there. Now, he received a call saying that Aristotle Onassis had his luxury yacht moored in Monte Carlo harbour, and rumour had it that Winston Churchill was going to be staying on that yacht. So Philip was ordered to go up to Monte Carlo and see if he could grab a shot of Winston Churchill and Aristotle Onassis together. Philip tracked them down to the Monte Carlo hotel, and managing to find out who Winston Churchill's bodyguard was, he approached him. Philip told me he paid him £10 to get one shot, to be allowed close enough to get one shot of Onassis and Winston Churchill together. And the actual words of that bodyguard were, "Okay, you get one shot, then F off." And he did it. As they were coming out of the hotel, he got this photograph that's been used in so many publications over the years of Winston Churchill casually talking and walking with Aristotle Onassis. Feeling very pleased with himself, with the shot that he got, he made his way to a coffee shop and he got talking to one of the guys who was serving tables there. It was an English guy. His name was Andrew Loog Oldham. And they got chatting and they were talking about London and the swinging 60s scene that was going on and the music and everything else. They swapped phone numbers and promised to stay in touch. Sometime soon after, Philip was back in London and he received a call from Andrew. Andrew said, "Philip, I need a favour doing." He said, "I've got this band of guys together." He said, "It's going to be the biggest R&B band that the world has ever known." He said, "We've got no money for a publicity shoot, but we really need some publicity photographs. If you take the photographs of this band, you can hold the copyright, and I guarantee you that they will be bigger than anything else the world has ever seen." Andrew wasn't wrong. Andrew Loog Oldham was the first manager of the Rolling Stones and producer. Philip turned up on Edith Grove, I think it was, in Earl's Court. Yes, it was, Edith Grove in Earl's Court, which is where the Rolling Stones were living in a squat. They just got together, they were penniless, didn't have anything at all. And Philip knocks on the door and Mick Jagger answered. And Philip said, Andrew's asked me to come round and do a photo shoot for you. We'll go out in my car, we'll go round Chelsea, down on the embankment, and we'll take some photographs. Mick Jagger said, well, that's okay, he said, but we're starving hungry, we've had nothing to eat. Mick said, there's a chicken shop just up the road there. Would you go up and buy us some chicken before we go out? So Philip ended up going out, buying some beer, buying some chicken for the Rolling Stones, and they had that before they went out on the photo shoot. And here are some of the photographs of that original photo shoot that Philip did with the Stones. Now, I was introduced to Philip by a friend she was actually cleaning his house for him. And she said, this guy Philip, he needs someone doing some work on his IT. He's a photographer and he needs some work doing on his IT. Would you go and do it? So she introduced me. I went round there and met him. And he was just this wild and wacky guy, a true eccentric, a proper artist. And me and Pook went round there together when I first met him. And I started talking about the IT needs that he had, and in no time at all we were talking about music, musicians, his photography work, and we sat down together and went through some of the collection of photographs that he had there at home. And he could see my passion for it, and he said to me, take your pick, which ones do you like? And I chose one, and he said, take another, and there was another photograph that I took. That's how I ended up with these two black and white photographs that we've got framed here in Udon Thani. Whenever Pook and I were out and about in central London, if ever we came across any of the sites where Philip took those photographs, we'd pull over. And this time we actually took a photograph of Pook on the exact spot, on Cheney Walk, down beside the River Thames. Exactly the same location. Quite a few years between those photographs though. Anyway, as time went on, I started doing more and more for Philip. In the end, it was sorting out photographs, going out to some of the people who had purchased them. It was getting in touch with galleries regarding exhibitions. And Philip, he was a lovely guy, but like I say, he was a true artist. 1 minute he'd be absolutely fine, the next minute there'd be this massive mood swing and he'd be a totally different person. To the point where he phoned me up one day and he was off on one, really ranting at me over the phone. And I said to him, Philip, I can't do this anymore. And I put the phone down. And I left it for about 10 minutes and I called him back to explain to him I wouldn't be working for him anymore. I wasn't interested in doing the IT work or the organisation of the business. And he said to me as calm as anything, I'm sorry, my dear, have I upset you? I just couldn't believe it. But that was it. We parted company, we went our separate ways. And I'm sad to say that I never saw him again, never met him again, simply because it wasn't that long after that he passed away. He was a great guy. So interesting, the stories that he used to tell. And here's one of them that I'll let you in on. Working in the media, in the press, he got to know about Rupert Murdoch, and he got to know some of the things that were going on. He didn't tell me what they were, but it sounded like they were pretty unsavoury, some of the things that were going on. He decided that he was going to write a book on Rupert Murdoch, and to do that he'd need to get close to him. Now, he waited and he waited until the time was right. There was a job being advertised at Rupert Murdoch's London home in St James's. And Rupert was advertising for a butler and a cook in his London home. Philip and his wife Penny applied for the job and they got it. So they were in. They were living and working in Rupert Murdoch's London home. And I said to him, so what happened to the book? Did it never get written? He said, no, I couldn't. He said, I decided in the end that it would be too dangerous to write that book. Now, I don't know what he meant by that, but they were his words. That's what he told me. Soon after he decided he wasn't writing the book, he left Rupert Murdoch's employment. But he did come across him one other time. Philip was called as a witness to stand against Rupert Murdoch during the Leveson inquiry. And during that trial, Rupert Murdoch made a comment referring to Philip Townsend as a very strange bird indeed. Says it all. I remember on one of our visits, I handed Philip my camera and said, Philip, can you take a picture of me and Pook? And this is it. So we've actually got a Philip Townsend original of the two of us. So that's how Pook and I acquired these beautiful, beautiful photographs from Philip Townsend, who managed to capture on film A very special moment in time for fashion and for music.